Hi, welcome. My name is Dayron Casas, and I'm doing my midterm project on Roper versus Simmons. In 1993, a 17-year-old named Christopher Simmons and two of his peers, Charles Benjamin and John Tessamere, plotted to burglarize the home of a supposed voodoo man that they believed to have a large sum of cash. Later on, Tessamere decided to remove himself from the crime. However, Simmons and Benjamin proceeded to meet up on the middle of the night to burglarize the house. When they entered the house, they found the soon-to-be victim Shirley Knight Crook. They proceeded to hogtie and cover her mouth with duct tape. After they succeeded the first part, they moved on to the second part where they planned to throw her over the bridge into the river next to the nearby railroad tracks. She was found the day after death from drowning. When the medical examiners examined the body, they discovered that she was brutally bruised with a total of 29 bruises and two broken ribs. Simmons was shortly arrested and convicted of first-degree murder, kidnapping, and burglary. As almost all criminals, they come from an abusive background. When Simmons was a kid, he was mentally, emotionally, and physically abused by his family. As a teen, he drank and smoked marijuana every day, which can lead to many abnormalities in a growing child's psychological well-being. He turned to drugs and alcohol not only because of bad genes, but because of the lack of support from his family and peers, as well as his need for escape. Bob Hayes, his stepfather, later admitted to tying Chris up to a tree while he went fishing, intentionally so he did not have to watch him. There was also witness to Chris getting hit in the ear by his stepfather so hard that it drew blood and damaged his eardrum. He would regularly hold him down, squeezing all of his pimples until they bled. As for his mother, she felt like a helpless victim as well. However, this does not justify what he did to Shirley Crook. Shirley Crook was a wife and a mother. Her and her husband were both truck drivers. Mr. Crook testified that the last time he spoke to his wife was September 8th by telephone while he was driving his truck out of town. Both him and Shirley were employed by the same trucking company, and she was scheduled to work the next day. When he called at 7 a.m. that day and she did not answer, he knew something was wrong. When he arrived at the house, he found the dog duct taped and whimpering. On September 9th, 1993, Christopher Simmons was picked up by cops and questioned. He stated that his constitutional rights were not met as his rights were violated. He was interrogated without advice of counsel or a guardian. The district attorney offered Simmons a plea bargain to life in prison, which he declined. The plea deal and the case went to trial. Simmons had confessed to murder and performed the videotape reenactment of the crimes, believing that his main argument to the crime was his age and his background. However, in light of the 2002 Supreme Court ruling in Atkins versus Virginia, that overturned the death penalty for the intellectually disabled, Simmons filed a new petition for state post-conviction relief. The Supreme Court of Missouri concluded that the national consensus of developed against the execution of juvenile offenders and held that such punishment not violates the Eighth Amendment's prohibition of cruel and unusual punishment. They sentenced Simmons to life imprisonment without parole. Much often mentioned in the context of the death penalty, the Eighth Amendment prohibits cruel and unusual punishments, but also mentions excessive fines and bail. The Eighth Amendment was added to the Constitution in 1791. However, later on, it was prohibited to sentence someone to death if the crime that they were charged for occurred when they were under the age of 18. The first states to abolish the death penalty was Wisconsin, which made the punishment illegal in 1853. Much recently, Washington, Delaware, Maryland, Connecticut, and Illinois have all abolished capital punishment. However, 24 states still implement the death penalty. Our state is one of the states, as well as Alabama and Arizona. One of the main questions brought up in this case was Simmons was only 4 months away from turning 18 and conscious of his decision whether or not he could be tried as an adult and punished to the death penalty. He was tried as an adult, however, since technically he was the crime he committed the crime he committed was before he turned the legal adult age. He could not be sentenced to the death penalty. A prime argument in Christopher Simmons' case was that his age and his abusive background took a large toll on his actions. The jury took this into consideration, as well as his family testimonies and criminal records, which he had none. However, they still recommended the death penalty. This ruling affected future juvenile offenders who received the death penalty in crimes committed, whether or not to charge future juveniles with death penalty, since the new revisement made it illegal to sentence minors to death row. In my personal opinion, I disagree with the ruling because he was only 4 months away from turning 18. This does not make him unaccountable for his actions. He was well aware of his decisions and what the consequences were. With that said, I also disagree with the sentencing to him to death. A much better alternative to that would have been him serving some kind of rehabilitation program or some kind of counseling while he serves his life sentence. Goodbye. Good riddance. Merry Christmas.